Well, if you watched Arcane, you got a break from the trough of pig slop studios have been pushing on us. Right out of the gate, Halo hits us with some expositional dialogue that'll give you flashbacks to the Suicide Squad. We're in the middle of a card game, and this girl says, "I'm saying you don't wash your hands." And he just randomly is like, "My hands are filthy with the blood of the UNSC Marines. And by the way, Spartans, they're very strong, and you should be aware that they're out there." And just like that, in about 2 minutes, everyone's expectations for this show just dropped like 3 points. But I get it. Writing's hard. I'm not a writer or a voice actor, and it can be really difficult to come up with how to introduce people to new characters. Makes me think, if only there was a template or some sort of story that they could borrow that just laid it all out for us. I don't think anyone really cares about the politics of the Halo universe, or at least not to that degree. And the Rebels are really not an interesting faction that anyone really cares about. What we really want to see is Marines and Chief fighting the Covenant. Now, I'm not saying I need mindless action with no story, but they could easily build the story around that action following the story that was in Halo 1. I think that's a perfect way to go about doing this. And the main reason I think that is because of the budget issue. And it should be obvious to everyone that the reason they want to push this Rebel faction storyline is because it'd be really expensive to have the Chief in all these big budget action scenes when they could just fill it up with people who just have basic costumes. But I think that your average fan would be willing to sacrifice a little bit of detail in the CGI if it meant they actually get what they're seeking. They could have started the show with scenes of the Pillar of Autumn getting attacked, and then easily just transitioned into the hallway scenes like it is in the game. Just get a smoke machine, make it dark, make it so that you can't really see the Covenant very well, so it kind of hides the CGI a little bit and gives them a little bit of that cushion. And then the second mission in the game is them on the Halo, so it looks more like an ordinary planet. And they could have easily just got some people, dressed them up as Marines, covered them in dirt, and had them out there just freaking out, and just used that opportunity to kind of develop their characters and introduce us to a squad of Marines that we could follow through most of the story. I actually don't think it would probably be the best idea to follow Chief himself, because he is a man of few words, and it would probably just feel a little bit like a Mandalorian ripoff, even though Halo came out first. But there's a million ways that they could have done this that had made it a little bit better. Instead, they decided to go with the Chief is defective storyline that I don't think anyone really wanted. I think that sounds like some 343 crap that came out that no one really liked. But anyway, they're at the Rebel base and the Covenant start their attack. Everyone's getting in positions, and the first thing I noticed was the people on the top of the wall aren't even shooting until the elites are basically through the door, which is crazy because the surrounding area is basically nothing but sand. So how did they not see him coming? If they were cloaked, I think that would have been a cool idea to just include that scene, because showing them decloaking like that would have been a really good introduction to them. And the next thing you notice is that their bullets aren't doing anything to the elites, which is somewhat expected because everyone who's played the game knows they have a shield, and I actually like the shield effect they use, but they do actually nothing to them, and it only becomes more apparent when the Spartans show up and their bullets seem to do way more damage and kill them way quicker, even if they're using the same guns that the Rebels were using. Actually, I think the only thing my wife had to say to me the whole time we were watching this show is, what's the difference between their guns and theirs? And I was originally trying to defend it, saying that the UNSC had more powerful weapons, but to that degree, I don't think that's true at all. I think it was just bad film editing. And the worst part is the action of this episode was probably the best part, and that's not saying much. There was a lot of jumping around that didn't really make sense. I will give it a pass for being a little bit clunky. You kind of expect that with, TV budgets. And at the same time, Landfall came out like 15 years ago, and it looks about the same quality, if not better. And then after they clear out the elites, we get to back to the main storyline where they find the index. and it becomes clear that this item is just going to do whatever they want it to do. It starts off by giving Chief memories of his childhood, and it's like, damn, we're going to get into this already. Like, the first scene with him, we're going to go straight into what his childhood is. And then later in the episode, when he really needs it, he knows to touch it, and it'll just do an EMP that will disable everything around him except the ship that he's in, which I don't really know how that makes any sense. And then after that, we get introduced to this Indian lady character who is bizarre. She orders Master Chief to execute this person who's not willing to comply with filming a video for them. And Chief says no, and she's already like, alright, it's time to kill Master Chief. And I know that he hasn't done the stuff from the main game yet, and Reach is still around, so Chief hasn't really come into his prime. But it just seems insane to take out a Spartan over set so quickly. And it's not just a Spartan, the Spartan. And if you don't play the games, Spartans are a really big deal in this universe. I believe there's only a few dozen alive at each time, at any point in the games, because they're so hard to create and take so long to train. But one of my favorite parts of the Halo franchise is a mission in Halo 2, where the city's getting blown up by this huge tank called a Scarab. And when the Master Chief shows up, the leader in charge says, "Man, when we asked for help, I didn't think they'd send a Spartan." As if all we needed on our side was a Spartan, and that's better than any amount of reinforcements you could have given us. And you almost forget to even talk about probably the main character of this show. I'm not even going to check what her name is, but the Asian chick. Her whole storyline is just already no one really cares. I suppose they're trying to get humanity to unite under one banner, and that's why they want the propaganda. But it just, who cares if they join them, really? They suck. They got wiped out by like 14 elites, so what use are they going to be other than maybe farming for them? And throughout the episode, they tell you that the UNSC has been trying to warn the colonists, like, hey man, the Covenant are out there, they're coming for you. We got bigger fish to fry, but they just apparently don't want to hear it. And at that point, it's like, all right, then forget you. Get wiped out then if you want to be stupid. And then probably the only other big thing to talk about this episode is the fact that Master Chief takes off his helmet, which I don't have the most issue with it, but it was done in like an unceremonious way. He just takes it off just to prove to you, look, I'm human, trust me. And thinking about it right now, just because I don't really care that much doesn't mean that other people don't. And it just kind of sucks that you get a director who's willing to just trample over everything. And it makes you wonder, how hard would it have been just to make your own space story with aliens if you're not going to really consider Halo games to be part of the story? And it probably is really a big slap to the face to the fans that do care about that type of thing. And I guarantee there's going to be people who like this episode, but I'm hearing from the people who have early access that this was the good part. And I'm here to tell you, this was crap. This was swill. This was 4 out of 10 below average garbage. And simply the fact that they would leave a line in there like, I'm covered in the blood of my enemies, and by the way, Spartans are real bad, and we don't like them. We have issues with the UNSC. I just do not have faith for the writing staff. And they clearly chose the most boring part of Halo to cover. They're trampling all over the lore. They're going off the reservation here. They have a human in the Covenant that's given respect. It just, well, I guess they could prove me wrong, but I just do not think this is going to be good. And I guess we'll never get the live action Halo that everyone's been talking about for forever, basically. Man, it really didn't hit me until I found that video of the orchestra playing that one song from Halo. That a lot of people really spent a lot of time making this game, and it's like a part of video game history, and this director just straight up wiped his ass with that.